Hello, and thanks for listening to another episode of the Screen Facts Podcast. I'm Jason Davis, and you can follow us on Instagram at ScreenFactsPod. You can also email us, screenfacts@yahoo.com. And if you'd like to support the show with a donation or by buying Screen Facts merchandise, you can do so at jasondavisvoice.com/podcast. I'm so grateful to welcome back my good pal, Les Sinclair. Les, how are you?
Hey, Jason, I'm so good. If I were any better, I'd be you.
Oh, very funny. Well, we're going to talk about a great movie today. I can't believe this movie is over 20 years old. It's like, how is that possible? We're going to talk about Bruce Almighty today, a great Jim Carrey vehicle. I'm so glad we decided to discuss this movie. It was great watching it again. Came out in 2003. It's one of 3 films that he made with director Tom Shadyac. The other 2 are Ace Ventura and Liar Liar, also both great movies. Les, what made you want to talk about this movie when you suggested it?
Well, I think Bruce Almighty is one of those movies that is just really cool. Tom Shadyac also has a connection to Virginia. I lived in Virginia, so it's really a cool thing there too. Jim Carrey is really one of those great actors, and this movie was one that I think put him. Ace Ventura was a great movie. The Mask was another good movie. Mm-hmm. And then this one solidified his ability to do this comedy in such a way. Last night, I watched this movie. So I searched for it online and I'm like, it's $4 to rent. I don't want to pay $4. I know I must own this movie somewhere. So I went downstairs where all of my videos are, and I went through the videos, which seemingly is hundreds of videos, DVDs and VHSs, and there it was, behind the Star Wars collection, Bruce Almighty on VHS. And so then I went, I've got to have a VHS player around this house. So I found one. I inserted the tape. It immediately ate the tape.
No!
So I pulled it out. No. I pulled it out. I put the tape back together. And then I found my little 13-inch TV with VCR connected. I took it upstairs, put it in front of my recliner, and watched the movie. It was like going to Blockbuster again. You know how on Friday nights you went to Blockbuster, you got the movie and you went home and it was like this event. And here I am watching this movie on this little 13-inch TV. My wife goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm watching Bruce Almighty." She pulls up in the couch next to me and we watch Bruce Almighty in 13 inches of spectacular Technicolor. And by the way, it was not rewound. I had to rewind it before I could watch it.
Oh, no. Come on. Yeah, it's funny.
Rewind.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I was watching the movie and thinking about how a lot of the stuff in the movie is kind of antiquated. The flip phones and
the computer.
Yeah. It's funny because Sue was saying when we were watching it, how it has a very 90s feel to it.
Yes.
I agree with that. To me, it's timeless, especially the message of the movie. Be grateful for what you have and be good to people. And I think that's a message we need more of nowadays, for sure.
So many of us are stuck in our own world, very much like Bruce was in the beginning, right? I mean, when he got the powers of God, he fixed his life all he could, but he didn't think about fixing anybody else's. And meanwhile, his significant other, who he loves, was struggling. And he didn't even notice it. So he eventually redeems himself and it works out great. I think one of the poignant scenes in the movie for me was when he's driving in the rain in the car. He's praying to God, just give me a sign. Meanwhile, there's this truck with signs telling him what to do. And he's not noticing the signs. And I think we as humans get signs all the time and just don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, a lot of us do get in our own way. In life, and we forget about the people that we love and that love us and are always in our corner, like Bruce does in this movie. And I don't relate to Bruce 100% myself, but I do relate to Grace, his significant other in the movie, being very similar to my wife, who has always had my back and has always thought the best of me and pushed me to be the best version of myself. And at times, I was too busy in my own bullshit to realize it. Gratefully, I'm not there now. So we can all change for the better. Let's put it that way.
Right on.
The writers, let's talk about the writers. Steve Coren, Mark O'Keefe, and Steve Odekirk. The cast, Jim Carrey, as we mentioned, is Bruce Nolan. And I didn't realize this. He was not the first person that the writers wanted for this movie.
Yeah, Kevin Hart, which is amazing. I didn't know that Kevin Hart was on the scene when this movie came out.
The film company, Universal, wanted Jim Carrey right out of the gate, but the writers wanted Kevin Hart. He turned it down because he didn't want to make a comedy movie about God.
It's amazing to me how that works out. Star Wars, one of my favorite movies, and the casting and Kurt Russell and all these people who were going to play different parts of the movie. The movies end up having the right people at the right time, and you can't imagine anybody else doing it, and how different it would be if they did.
Absolutely. Jennifer Aniston as Grace, Philip Baker Hall, great character actor as his boss, Jack. Steve Carell, who's a scene stealer in every scene that he's in, as Evan Baxter. Yeah. And of course, he goes on to play that role again in Evan Almighty, the sequel to this, which we'll talk about going forward. We both have a kind of a connection to that from Virginia. Right. We'll get into that when we talk about Evan Almighty. But yeah, the scenes with Steve Carell are so good. First off, I think he's excellent at playing a newscaster because he did it for quite a few years on The Daily Show.
He's also in The Morning Show as a news anchor.
Okay.
He was in Anchorman as, what was he, a weatherman or something? So he's got, yes, some cachet as a news person.
Yeah, so good. Catherine Bell as Susan Ortega. I can't do the accent. Ortega.
Like that
Susan
every
Ortega.
time.
Yeah. Ava Mendez was originally cast, but she had to be replaced because she had some scheduling conflicts with Too Fast, Too Furious. Rounding out the cast, Lisa Ann Walter, who plays Jennifer Aniston's character's sister in this movie. She's currently on Abbott Elementary on ABC, a great show. She's very good on that. Nora Dunn, an SNL alum, is in this. A really good ensemble cast. Great performances from everybody. This movie did very well at the box office too. It cost them about $81 million to make and made about $484 million worldwide. And when it opened, it earned about $68 million domestically, breaking records for a Jim Carrey movie at the time.
And I think this was his highest paid movie as well, at $25 million he earned for this flick. So that's pretty cool. I also noticed that he was a producer with Shadyac as well. So that means that he got a piece of the action.
By the time he made this movie, he had so much success in the mid to late 90s with Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. I mean, he was on a roll by this time. He definitely had a lot of clout.
This was his third movie with Shadyac, which I thought was interesting. But there's another character it's also his third movie with, the monkey.
Yes.
So the monkey was in both Ace Ventura's and this movie. So Shadyac and the monkey have 3 times with Jim Carrey. Good for them. The monkey was also in Outbreak and was the monkey on Friends.
So Jennifer Aniston got to work with the monkey twice as well.
Right.
Another thing was that Courtney Cox was his co-star in Ace Ventura, and of course she was on Friends with Jennifer Aniston. So it's kind of interesting. I guess Hollywood is a close-knit community sometimes.
That's a good way to say it. I was going to say incestuous, but close-knit is better.
I was trying to be nice. Let's talk about Morgan Freeman. How great is he? Perfect guy to play God, right?
Well, he really is. I mean, first, his voice is like a cloud, right? And then his demeanor in all his movies is just this commanding presence, right?
Yep. I like that he has a sense of humor too.
I also thought that was interesting that he wanted to take the elevator up to the 7th floor. Jim Carrey did. And he told him the elevator's broken. Yeah, got to take the stairs, the stairway to heaven. So that was
yeah, there's a lot of great Easter eggs in this movie like that. A lot of great religious references.
The golden calf.
Yep.
The reference when he was telling his news guy that he needed to take a day to figure out his life. And he goes, "You did all that in a day?" And yes, imagine what I could have done in 7.
Yeah, exactly.
6 is all God needed, though, right?
That's right.
I mean, the 7th day was a rest day.
That's right. He turns the water into wine.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yahweh.com, which is God's biblical name. When he parts the tomato soup in the diner, it's actually the music from the 10 Commandments too.
Yeah, he also parts the traffic so that he can get to work faster.
Right.
As well.
When it's all this horsepower and I can't gallop. So the film is set in Buffalo primarily because Jim Carrey grew up in Toronto, not too far over the border in Canada, and he used to watch that actual news channel, that actual newscast as a kid. So that's kind of cool.
When there's a shot of Carrey and he's watching TV, the actual sports director of that TV channel was on the TV. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. When he goes to see God for the first time, the address for God's company is 77256 23rd Street. If you were to dial that on a telephone, it spells Psalm 23.
That building, if you look at the outside of that building, there's a sign on it that says omnipresence.
I love that they have all these little Easter eggs that you can find. And that's the great thing about a movie like this. I love Jim Carrey. I love watching his movies multiple times because you just find new stuff to laugh at. And with a movie like this, with all these Easter eggs, you find more things to look for too.
I was really impressed with the way that Jim Carrey mimed when he was making Evan Baxter flub all the words.
That's a great scene. When you're watching the credits, they have the bloopers during the credits. And the bloopers during that scene, you know, where he's just making Catherine Bell crack up, Steve Carell. How does he do that and not crack up himself?
Yeah. My wife watched specifically for that. She was like, I just love Steve Carell. He's my favorite.
And my tiny little nipples went to France.
The copy's good. Just read the copy.
Just read the prompter. You know what's great about this movie, too, is they really nail the egocentric nature of local news talent.
Yeah. I will say that I think that was more of a 90s thing and that they have changed a lot. And I say that because TV has been very humbled. It's taken a beating now to all these streaming services. TV is now suffering very much the same way that radio is suffering, in that they're firing everybody and they have a bare bones staff. And many of these reporters who had a cameraman and a producer go out with them, and then, you know, all of these news directors and stuff. And Buffalo is not a huge market. So now I'm sure that many of these reporters are going out with a camera themselves and shooting the stories by themselves.
Yeah. Media has changed so much in general, I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are getting their news from the internet these days. Between social media and the 24-hour news channels and websites, yeah, it's a different world. And it goes back to what we were saying about how this movie has a 90s feel to it, even though it was the early 2000s. I think once smartphones came out, the world shifted pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to watch the TV for the weather. You can just pull up the weather on your phone.
Exactly.
And oftentimes, many people just have it on their home screen. They can just go, oh, yeah, it's going to be sunny, 72 today.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reading about some of the deleted scenes, and I thought these are kind of cool, the things that didn't make the movie. So the thing that did make the movie that I thought was incredible to me, like, why did they put that in? On the pager when God was calling Bruce, there was a real number, somebody's real number that they used. And so that those numbers all across the country were flooded with calls. And I thought that was really interesting. So on the DVD in the home market, they replaced that number with a 555 number. But there were some other deleted scenes, Bruce answering prayers individually, including giving a nerdy boy strength and helping some prisoners escape and giving a man a bigger schlong. Because, you know there are men praying for that.
I'm sorry, schlong is just a great word.
Yeah, isn't it though?
It is.
There was also a scene of him trying to take a bath. He could walk on water, so apparently he couldn't get in it. So
oh yeah,
that was a scene that didn't make it. He did get the pandas in the zoo to mate by making them extremely horny, like he did Jennifer Aniston. And then apparently Grace's boobs grew a couple of times and then went back to normal after she prayed for them to do so.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's kind of interesting. There were some scenes where God showed him how not saying yes to prayers actually helps people. Like there was an elderly woman who was praying for money, and if God said no, then she reconciled with her sister who she was estranged from. But if he said yes, then she just went on her life. And so the God principle was to get her to reconcile with her sister. And so it's along that same message of sometimes God says no because you need to do something else.
Yep. I love the scene at Niagara Falls I think we can all relate to being disappointed the way he is, that, Evan gets the bump to the anchor desk and he doesn't. But the way he handles it obviously is not very good.
Oh, it was comedic genius though, wasn't it?
It was. I love what he's like, we're here with Katharine Hepburn's mom. And he does the whole Titanic reference. But they achieved that scene. A lot of that was done on the Universal Studios lot with, special effects and green screens. But they did mix it with actual footage of Niagara Falls. And they do a really good job. It's pretty seamless. I think it's done very well. And it's very funny.
Speaking of the lot, they also had the clock tower from the Back to the Future movies. And that was all on the Universal lot too.
Yeah, specifically the scene where where everybody's rioting after the Sabres win the Stanley Cup. Pretty clear that it's Hill Valley. It works.
Personally love that. Not only is it a great Easter egg, it's also kind of cool for people that are film buffs to be able to recognize that and go, is that the clock tower? And so to be able to put those things together is really kind of cool. It also makes a lot of sense if a movie studio is going to build something like that to use it more than once.
Oh, absolutely. I like that Jim Carrey does a lot of improvisation in the movie. He wanted to do like 30 takes at times of certain things. Jennifer Aniston talked about the set being genuinely laugh out loud funny. He's a force of nature, Jim Carrey. I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that was in the script was very funny. I'm sure he came up with ideas, he and Shadyac together, where they could take it to another level.
There's the scene at the end after he's broken his leg and gotten hit by the truck and he's got the cane and he tosses the cane aside and then he simply falls over, which is really cool. I mean, I think that is part of the genius of Jim Carrey. Not only, in my opinion, is he really super smart and philosophical, but his physical genius, his ability to do pratfalls and bring his physicality into the comedy is really incredible.
Yeah, I think he's very underrated as an actor too. He's done some dramatic stuff that he's been very good in, but people underestimate how difficult it is to be funny. You mix in some of the impressions that he does too. That's another layer of genius. Yeah, big fan of Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he does a Clint Eastwood that is really spot on. He was in the movie The Deadpool with Clint Eastwood. So he's got a connection to Clint Eastwood too. And that imitation that he does is really spot on. You look at his face and you go, he could be Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, that was how he started his career. When he was first coming up, he was a stand-up comic. And that's what he would do. He would do impressions, but not just the voices. He would transform his face in a way that was just, how is he doing that?
I think that many of those stand-up comedians, the really smart ones like Jim Carrey and Robin Williams and Kevin Hart, when they segue into dramatic acting, my belief is that it takes a lot of emotional connection to be a comedian because you have to be able to read and feed from the audience, and their ability to do that means that they can connect emotionally. So when Jim Carrey goes from Ace Ventura, which is really silly,
about as silly as it gets,
silly,
yeah,
to something like The Truman Show, you go, oh, I totally get how he can go from one to the other because they are tapping into some sort of emotional resonance that they know, that they understand as a comedian.
Most comedians say that their comedy comes from pain.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. I mean, Jim Carrey, he grew up in a tough way. I mean, he was homeless, I think, a couple of times. His family struggled, but he had a father with an incredible sense of humor. His father passed that on to him, obviously. And he's taken his experience growing up and he turned it into this great life. And a lot of it is through law of attraction stuff, which, I'm a firm believer in. He's talked about it a lot in interviews. He wrote a check to himself when he was younger for $20 million for acting services rendered. And then lo and behold, I mean, the guy is an inspiration.
Yeah, he's a great talent. And I wish we would see more of him. I think that he is just picking and choosing what he's doing these days.
Yeah, I think he sort of semi-retired from acting, but he has shown up in those Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which I haven't seen.
Hey, one of the things that surprised me was that this came from a book. I know that many movies come from books, but I had no idea that this one came from a book called Almighty Me. The rights were snapped up pretty fast, and then it took a while for the movie to be made, but I was just surprised that this was an actual book beforehand.
I really love the scene. He's hit by the truck and then he's in heaven with God. And Morgan Freeman tells him to pray. And he says, well, feed the hungry and world peace and all that. He's like, that's great if you're Miss America. How about a real prayer?
Yeah.
And what he says about Grace, Morgan Freeman's like, you want her back, don't you? And he's like, no, I want her to be with somebody who loves her the way I should have loved her, who sees her the way I see her right now through your eyes. Man, that gets me every time.
That's perfect clarity of what the movie is all about.
And then I love when he wakes up in the hospital bed, after God revives him, and he's hugging Grace. And then he looks at his hand and he sees the prayer beads and he goes,
yeah,
now you're just showing off.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is so well done and it's just a great message. And right now we're dealing with a world where people just seem to have forgotten to care about each other,
Yeah.
I say this all the time. You don't have to love everyone, but I think if we all just made a little more of an effort to be respectful and have empathy, because you don't know what people's lives are. You don't know what people are going through. If we just cared a little bit more about somebody else before ourselves, just a little bit, I think the world would be a better place.
There's a book out there. It's called The 5 Agreements. One of them is don't take it personally. I think that is one of the best things ever, because if somebody comes at you with anger, they're having a bad day. And you shouldn't take it personally because they're having a bad day and you don't know what's going on in their life that brought them to that bad day. So don't take it personally and maybe just go, oh yeah, we can work this out. We can figure out another way around it. Too much of our egos get in the way often. This becomes a philosophical podcast, Jason Davis.
Well, that's the great thing about art, right? We talk about that a lot on the podcast. Is that another thing that I love about this movie is that it's a reminder of how maybe you can shift your thinking in a positive way, the way Bruce does in this movie. It's great that there's a message in the movie, but they don't beat you over the head with it. They give you just enough of the message, and then they make you laugh so much that it makes it easier for the message to go down, I guess.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to the next one with you.
Thanks, Jason. These are always fun.
Yeah. Thanks for doing it with me, Les. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can do so by emailing screenfacts@yahoo.com. Also, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's screenfactspod. And if you'd like information about my voiceover work, or if you just want to maybe support the show with a donation, or if you'd like to buy ScreenFacts merchandise, you can do that at jasondavisvoice.com/podcast. Ooh, nice jacket, Les. I like it. Looks good. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
It's good.